guys, give me a few seconds. I'm gonna do the audio thingy on my laptop and then we can get started. All right, let's do this. What's up everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel / my podcast. I am the marketing nomad. My name is Prithvi Madhukar. I am the author of 0 to 4 Figures and Self-Loved. I'm also a digital entrepreneur and a business owner. Few of the roles that I do take on, I'm a YouTuber, podcaster, Etsy shop owner, Skillshare teacher, and a marketing strategy consultant as well. All of the links are in the description box below if you'd like to check it out. Welcome to episode 196 of the Ask TMN series, where we're going to be getting into 5 steps that I have for you to overcome your self-doubt. And if you're new here and you're wondering, well, what's this Ask TMN thing that you just spoke about? So Ask TMN is a series that I created where I answer some of the most commonly asked questions that solopreneurs may have about business, marketing, as well as mindset. Now, if those 3 topics interest you, definitely do hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because that tells you every single time I do upload a podeo, and I upload a couple of these every single week. Alrighty guys, without further ado, let's get into the 5 steps that I have for you to overcome self-doubt. And I have a feeling that this podcast is going to be comparatively longer than my other ones because I really want to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with you on this topic. This is actually one of my favorite topics to talk about when it comes to mindset. So for me, the way that I perceive self-doubt and self-confidence has been different, always, all through my life. And all through my life, I've always had people ask me, well, where do you get this courage to do, things that most people don't even think about or are hesitant to? And after getting a lot of questions like that, I realized that it really boils down to how I look at self-doubt and self-confidence. And it's my perception of those two that have really helped me go after whatever it is that I want to and what my heart desires. And I want that for you too. I wish that for you, which is why I'm sharing the way that I perceive these two. And this is actually, at least one part of it, is a concept that I have talked about in my book 0 to 4 Figures, and I can't wait to get into it as well. All right, so let's get into the 5 steps. All right, so the first step is to acknowledge your self-doubt, and I feel like this is one of the biggest challenges for every single person out there, me included. I think that we are kind of conditioned by the society not to have any self-doubt. And so when we are conditioned that way, of course, when there's even a little bit of self-doubt, oftentimes we start to panic. We start to say, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to be having self-doubt, so this is wrong, and what I'm feeling is wrong, and so on and so forth. I am not of that thought process. I do not follow that thought process at all. And in fact, I think there's actually something very fundamentally wrong about that thought process. The thing is, I think a healthy amount of self-doubt is necessary. I think that when you have self-doubt, a healthy amount of it, it actually enables you to, one, make sure that you are taking the right steps, towards whatever it is that you wish to move forward towards. And number 2, that self-doubt, that little bit of self-doubt is what is going to make you cautious. So you're not going to be like leaping off and hurting yourself. That's a layer of protection that your mind automatically puts in for you. Now, when I think of self-doubt, I think that it is necessary. I think that it is part of who we are. That is a very, very natural phenomena that occurs. And self-doubt can come because of various things. Maybe you've tried it out once before and it didn't work out, or you've seen someone else do it and it didn't work out, or maybe you're just unsure of whether you can handle it, so on and so forth. So there are many different reasons for these self-doubts to come about. But I want to tell you today, it's okay. It's okay that you have self-doubt. One thing that I do want to say is it's not about eliminating self-doubt. It's about understanding that, hey, self-doubt exists. It is there. It's in a corner of the room, but it is not going to stop me from going after what I want to achieve. So today I want you to take some time, okay? Take some time to reflect on every single task that you feel you really want to do, take a look at the self-doubt that exists, that's stopping you from taking the next step. I want you to take a look at those and acknowledge them. Accept that it is a normal part of the process. It is not weird for you to have self-doubt. It is not abnormal. It is actually very, very normal. And ask yourself, what is this self-doubt trying to teach me in this moment of time? All right, so that is the first step for you. Then we come to number 2, which is to challenge your self-doubt. So of course, when it comes to self-doubt, maybe, all right, maybe it is because of previous negative experience that either you've been through or you've witnessed. So challenge it. Ask yourself, well, if I feel this way, can I get evidence that it is not true? All right, so for example, let's actually take a life example of mine. So just before I started writing my first book, 0 to 4 Figures, I had a lot of self-doubt, contrary to popular belief, my self-doubt was pretty intense at that point. And I actually stopped writing for 6 months because my self-doubt was way too high. And it was for various reasons. I'm like, at that point in time, I was like, I'm not even 30, I'm writing a book. And I've only had a couple of years experience. Am I worthy of writing this book? So on and so forth. I was plagued with so much of self-doubt. And so with every single self-doubt that came about in those 6 months, I took the time to challenge it. So for example, the first self-doubt, let's tackle it, okay, together. So the first self-doubt was, well, people may perceive that I don't have enough experience to write a book, like life experience. And then I look back at my life and I've actually had significant life experiences that have contributed to life lessons that I stand by today and could contribute to the book, and as an extension of that, help other people as well. And so that was me challenging that self-doubt and saying, no, that self-doubt actually, no, I don't think you're right. I don't think it is accurate for me to have this self-doubt because it's just baseless. All right. So it's kind of figuring out, all right, this is the self-doubt, and then eliminating the ones that do not have evidence to support it. All right. So I'll give you another example. So the second example for my self-doubt in the same issue was, I'm barely 30, writing a business book on top of that. Yeah, it's kind of scary, And then I thought to myself, and then I sat down again. I said, all right, what have been your business related experiences in the last 3 to 4 years? And at that time, I think I was like 3.5 years in. And so I asked myself, and I just sat down one day and I started jotting. It took me a while, it took me a couple of days to get through all of it. And then I realized, you know what? That's a lot. That's a lot of business experiences that I'm going through, even though I haven't hit like 6 figures or 8 figures or 9 figures. And that's when it also hit me like, no, I don't have to hit those numbers to have things that I truly want to share with people so that it makes a difference in their lives. And so that was another self-doubt that I managed to eliminate with the second step. Now, I do want to say that after this step, maybe, okay, you are going to have some self-doubts that actually do have evidence. The ones that I gave you example for, they didn't have any evidence, so I was able to eliminate them. So what you're doing in this step is as much as possible, you're eliminating the self-doubts that are baseless or don't have any evidence, all right? And at the end of this step, you will have some self-doubt, yes, but those would be self-doubt that you probably have evidence for, all right? So maybe that self-doubt that maybe you tried it once before, it didn't work out, so you doubt yourself of doing it again or trying it out again. Yeah, those have evidence. So at least now, after this step, you have a bunch of self-doubts that are substantiated. So there's a solid base for that. And so in this step, I do want to say again, it's okay for you to have self-doubts at the end of this step, all right? This step is just primarily about going through that process of filtering your self-doubts to see which one is just maybe you have kind of been through, the rug and you really want to protect yourself, and the ones that are baseless, that that are unsubstantiated, that you actually have evidence to prove the contrary. So you're eliminating those and you're staying back with a set of self-doubts that maybe have some sort of evidence or some sort of reasoning for them. All right, so that is step number 2 for you. Then step number 3 is ask yourself, where is it coming from? So now after step 2, you are left with a base of maybe self-doubts that have some sort of evidence, right? So maybe it happened to you, maybe it happened to someone else. So take a look at that. Go through each one of those self-doubts. It's not about eliminating them in this process, it's understanding where they came from. So for example, let's take for example my book. Okay, we started out with that, we'll just continue with that. So when it came to my book, one of the reasons that I stopped writing was, am I ever going to even write this book, finish this book? Because I did attempt writing a book when I was 21. I think it was like my 3rd year of engineering or something like that. I tried to write a book. I managed to write only half of it, and then I could not finish it for various different reasons. And so that thought was always in my mind, that I did try writing a book at some point in my past, and I never finished it, so maybe I'm not going to finish this book as well. And that was a self-doubt that had a legitimate claim, right? Because yes, I actually could not complete the book for various reasons back then. And so that was a valid self-doubt. So just understanding where your self-doubts are coming from is a good place, all right? And as an extension of this point, there's one concept that I would like to introduce, and I think this is probably the first time that I'm going to be talking about it anywhere, but there is something called a me problem and a them problem. All right, this is something that I absolutely follow for my life. One of the best things that you will ever do for yourself is understand which parts of your life are your responsibility and which parts are not. All right, this is one of the best things that you're going to do for yourself, and I'm going to repeat it. One of the best things that you will ever do for yourself is understand what is your responsibility and what is not. All right, and let go what isn't your responsibility. And so when you are dealing with this self-doubt, I'll tell you how this correlates to that. When you're dealing with your self-doubt, sometimes your self-doubt can be a projection of what someone else feels or what someone else has been through. And it's very natural that happens, right? You watch someone go through it, you watch someone struggle with something or not being able to accomplish what they wanted to, and you fear that's going to happen to you. Or you might be projecting someone else's conditioning. Maybe they don't feel it is realistic, and so that's how they've been conditioned, or that's what their life experiences has taught them, or maybe they also are projecting someone else's limiting beliefs. You never know, right, where it comes from. So one of the things that I always ask myself when it comes to my self-doubt is this self-doubt coming from me, or am I projecting someone else's self-doubt, someone else's limiting belief? And this is probably one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself when it comes to your self-doubt, because if it is self-doubt that is coming from within you, that's a you problem. That's like a me problem. If my self-doubt is coming from within me, that's a me problem. I've got to handle that. I've got to focus on it, and I've got to work on it. But if it is someone else's self-doubt, someone else's limiting belief, that's a them problem. That's not a you problem. That's not a me problem. It's getting a little bit confusing for me to say you, me, but I hope you understand what I mean. That's a them problem. Okay? And if I let the them problem affect me, then it becomes a me problem. All right? So I really want to put across this concept because this has absolutely changed my life. Honestly, I've been thinking of it as like me problem, them problem for quite some time in my life, but I never thought to articulate it until I started scripting for this episode, and I'm like, yeah, this is actually how I perceive it. I gotta share the way that I see this. So I'm gonna repeat the whole thing again because I think it's so important. So for me, there are two kinds of problems. One, it's a me problem. The other one, it's a them problem. All right. So a me problem and a them problem. Now, if the self-doubt comes from me, it's a me problem. I've got to work through it. I've got to analyze it. If the self-doubt is someone else is projecting their limiting beliefs, someone else is projecting their conditioning, that's a them problem. Okay, they've got to sort it out. They've got to figure it out. They've got to do whatever they need to if they want to. Again, they're completely on them, not on you. But, all right, but if you allow the them problem, all right, to affect you, to influence your decisions, to influence your actions, that becomes a me problem. That becomes a problem that you have to deal with. All right, so always understand, every time you're facing some sort of self-doubt, ask yourself, is this a me problem or is it a them problem? Am I projecting someone else's belief and should I let that go? Or is this truly my own limiting belief, my own self-doubt about my capabilities? Then okay, that's a me problem. I'll handle it. I've got to figure it out. I'm going to look through it. I'm going to work through it. All right. So understand what is your responsibility to correct and understand what is your responsibility to let go. All right. And even if it is not correcting the self-doubt, because sometimes self-doubts do exist and they'll just be happily sitting in the corner and that's okay. So maybe the me problem is learning how to accept that self-doubt as well. So that also could be another way, but that is still a me problem. All right, you don't have to force someone else to accept their self-doubt or their limitations or convince them how it doesn't apply to you. No, that's not a you problem at all. That is not a me problem. That is a very much them problem. You don't have to worry about it. They will do it if they want to, and even that is not on you. You focus on the problems that are me problems, because let's face it, that's more than enough to handle. Okay, so that's how I see it. Okay, so every time you feel like you're thinking of a self-doubt that is hindering you, ask yourself, is it a me problem? Is it a them problem? If it's a them problem, it needs to get out of my mind. It needs to get out of my life, because that's their problem. But if it is a me problem, all right, how am I going to work through it? How am I going to accept it? How do I find ways to be kind to myself as I work through this? So on and so forth. So that's the concept of a me problem and a them problem. All right, and if you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask in the comment section below. I'll definitely be able to help you out, just to make it a little bit more clear. But I think I explained it like twice, so I'm hoping, and like I said, this is like the first time I'm sharing this, so there's probably some scope for me to improve in the way that I mention it. But yeah, I really hope that I was able to convey it. All right, but let me know in the comments. All right, so this is where we come up with the me problem and the them problem, and that is step number 3. All right, then we come to step number 4, which is where I introduce you to a concept of raising your self-confidence. Now, we're going to go back to point number 1, okay, a little bit. The reason why every single person, me included at some point in my life, panic when we feel a little bit of self-doubt is because we've been taught that it should not exist, or that it is wrong to feel self-doubt, or there's something honestly crazy about you to have self-doubt. I first off want to tell you there is nothing wrong in having self-doubt. It is a very, very natural process. It is your mind protecting you. A healthy amount of it is good. So we've worked through steps 1 to 3, where now you've come up with a set of self-doubt that is a me problem, right? It's you and you're working through it. So that's naturally going to take some time. They're not going to magically disappear overnight, right? But while you are doing that, let me introduce you to another concept of raising your self-confidence. So while you are working on accepting your self-doubt, also take steps to raise your self-confidence. And let me give you an example with respect to my book. I have so many examples of this, but we'll stick to the book, all right? So, okay, wait, I'll actually also give you another example that is not business related, and that's related to my dance, but we'll finish the book example first, okay? I'm so excited to share this with you. All right, so when it came to the 6 months that I stopped writing, I wasn't just, not doing anything or wasting my time. No. I was actually working to raise my self-confidence so that I would get back to writing. Of course, I didn't know it will take 6 months. I thought it would take me about 2 years, frankly speaking, but I was able to raise it pretty good for the 6 months. So what did I do? I started, looking back at all the old compositions that I had written all through the ages of my primary school, and my teachers' comments on all of that. Those are so powerful. I can't even begin to thank them for it. And then I started, looking at the writing competitions that I had participated in and the awards that I'd won, and, basically validating myself, building my self-confidence, even though I did have those self-doubts right over there, but they were just sitting in the corner looking at me, and I was looking at them and doing like, yeah, hi. but at the same time, I was acknowledging that I had substantial evidence to prove I was more than capable of moving forward. All right. So that's what I did, and not just that, okay? So I was also having some self-doubts about some of the concepts that I was introducing with my book. This concept also, like the whole raising self-confidence with against self-doubt concept theory, or however you would like to put it. Yeah, even that too, I guess I would say I was having my reservations about sharing it because I had not seen these concepts out in the world, right? And it was based on my own life experiences. So naturally, I was very hesitant. I was like, okay, what if other people do not feel the way that I do, or they don't see it the way I do, and maybe this is just a one-off thing. So what did I do? I went on so many podcasts. I think I must have gone on at least 30 podcasts through that entire 6-month period. You can check it if you like. It must have been so many podcasts. I went on there and I started sharing my theories. Little by little, I started sharing it. I would observe their reaction. I even had some people who were their listeners reach out to me and say, hey, this concept really helped me. And so bit by bit, I took the time to raise my self-confidence, because with each person, like each podcast listener or the host who was listening to mine, they would react to the theory that I was putting out, or they would say, hey, that's actually a really nice insight. I want to get to know more about that. Can you explain this? Can you explain that? And so even with that conversation with them, I was, mentally figuring out how I would write it and how I would bring clarity, because the way that I said it, maybe they needed more questions. So I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to write those questions in. Like, I'm going to put answers of those questions into my book so that it is going to be more clear, so on and so forth. And this is what I did. So for 6 whole months, you can check. I mean, I was like all over the podcast, even after I managed to raise my self-confidence, and then I started getting back to writing the book. I still continued to go on podcasts, and I just kept sharing these little theories and seeing reactions to that, seeing what was working, what was resonating, what wasn't, and I think that was the best thing that I did for myself, because that really raised my self-confidence, and I got back to writing my book, and I published it in September of 2022. All right, and that was my first book. So I just lost my train of thought, but what I wanted to say is it's okay that self-doubt exists, but here's the theory that I want to share with you. When your self-doubt is more than your self-confidence, that's when it stops you from taking action. You feel hesitant, you are scared, you don't know what to do next, you can't find the courage to move forward. But when you raise your self-confidence to exceed your self-doubt, I'm going to repeat that again because it's very, very important. When you take the steps to raise your self-confidence to exceed your self-doubt, that's when you take action. It's not that the self-doubt does not exist. It does exist. It's just that your self-confidence is more than it, which is what allows you to take action. And that, my friend, is one of the most simplest ways to get you to move forward, even though you have self-doubt that may exist in that moment of time, even though there is self-doubt that you are working through. All right, so this is a very, very important thing. So every single time you work through the steps, step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and then you're at step 4, ask yourself this very simple question. Ask yourself, well, all right, I'm learning how to accept my self-doubt. It's okay that it exists. It does exist. I can see it. He can see me, or she. Really doesn't matter. However you wish to they, them, really, that's not the point here, but we are going to move forward, okay? So whatever it is that they, want to do, they're sitting there in the corner. I can see them. They can see me. Yeah, that's all fine. We're all chill. But I'm not going to stay put. I am going to be raising my self-confidence, all right? And that's what you're gonna do. That's what you're gonna do throughout this entire period. And I can't definitively tell you, all right, how long it's gonna take. That really depends on you. It depends on the magnitude of what you wish to do as well, the magnitude of your self-doubt, the experiences that have contributed to that self-doubt, so on and so forth. So for me, it's not about eliminating the self-doubt. No, it's not about that. It's about eliminating the baseless ones, yes, but it's also about accepting the self-doubt that has been substantiated, that is valid, that, is there to protect me, but also working on my self-confidence so that it exceeds the self-doubt that is present. Hold on, I got to... we've reached like 25 minutes, and so that's the time when it just suddenly turns off. So I'm just gonna go off and go back in, okay? Yep, I'm back. All right, so I'm feeling extremely chatty today. I kind of like the energy and the vibe, all right? So anyway, let's get back to the podeo that I have for you. So that is number 4 for you. Raise your self-confidence to a point where it exceeds your self-doubt. Because if your self-doubt is more than your self-confidence, that's where you feel the block. That's where you can't seem to take action. But if you take the steps to raise your self-confidence above your self-doubt or to exceed your self-doubt, that's when you are able to take action. All right, and then number 5 is to take action once you feel like your self-confidence has been exceeding your self-doubt. All right, so again, I think that taking action is a step by itself, because that also needs a separate thought process of its own, a separate mindset of its own, and it's a different way of speaking to yourself as you are starting to take action. So there is a chance of, analysis paralysis, that, okay, have I exceeded? Have I not exceeded? But what I do want to say is the minute you feel your self-confidence exceeding your self-doubt, you'll feel it in you. You will really feel it. And one thing that I do want to say is trust that feeling and move forward. Take action, all right? So that's really how I wish to conclude it, because over here I've written it's okay if self-doubt exists. I feel like we've been conditioned to panic, like no self-doubt, or self-doubt should not exist, or a weak man will have self-doubt, or some I don't know, all of that, yeah, garbage, please. Take it and just throw it out of the window. That's not a concept that is realistic, because your self-doubt exists to protect you in some sort of way. So a healthy amount of it is okay. I mean, because of the self-doubt that I did have, while I was writing my first book, I don't know how many times, but I have checked my book again and again and again. And frankly, there was a lot of things that I did not put into my book because they just didn't meet my standards. And again, all of it boils down to the self-doubt. It is your mind's way of protecting you. But sometimes it does go into overdrive, and that's when you have to pull it back and say, no. We're going to have a healthy amount of you. That's okay. But anything more than that, no, we don't want. And if it's unsubstantiated, we don't want it at all. But what's substantiated, we're going to work through it. We're going to accept you. It's okay if you're still there, but I'm also going to be working on raising my self-confidence. And one question, I've talked about raising self-confidence a lot. So I've got a few questions that people have asked me over the 2 years that I've been talking about it. And the one question that people seem to ask recurring is, how do I know what steps to take to raise my self-confidence? And for that, I want to say that that it is highly individualistic. It really depends on what self-doubt is holding you back, what exactly is going to prove to you that you can do it. So take steps so that you can prove to yourself, or you can comfort yourself. More than proving to yourself, I think it's more about bringing in that comfort for yourself that, hey, I can actually do this, or I can move forward with this and I will figure it out as it goes. Sometimes it could be learning a new skill, maybe going for a course, maybe taking the time to talk to your friends, taking the time to talk to your mentors, figuring out a strategy so that you feel better about handling if things go wrong, maybe having some sort of support. There are so many different ways, and maybe it could also be reminding yourself of your accomplishments thus far. And let me tell you, the accomplishments that I took the time to remember were accomplishments that I had from the age of 7. And those were so impactful, You may ask, well, it's a 7-year-old, but the way that I saw it was, if I could do that when I was 7 years old, then I've learned so much from then. I've grown so much as a person since then. My writing has improved so much since then. So if I could do it at 7 years, then that's definitely, like a morale boost that, hey, you can do it at this age too. And so for me, that's how I viewed it. And just reminding yourself, I really feel that reminding yourself of the accomplishments of your younger self, don't underestimate the power of it. Those are really powerful. And just think of it like, if at that age you were able to do, have that accomplishment, then today, it's definitely, you've grown so much, you've been through so much. So there's definitely added stuff that contributes to who you are today. And if it is, of course, some sort of negative experience that has contributed to your self-doubt today, I do want to say, maybe try accepting, maybe try figuring out what went wrong back then, or how you can do things differently now, or maybe have enough strategies in place to protect yourself, so on and so forth. Again, different ways you can go about raising your self-confidence. And the reason why I give you the other example of, maybe something did go wrong before, that's happened to me as well. I've had self-doubts where things just went so horribly wrong the first time, and I just absolutely lost all the self-confidence in myself to move forward with it, because I thought it would just break my life all over again, or break me all over again. But I accepted that, yes, that self-doubt exists, but I'm going to take the time to raise my self-confidence. And for that, whatever, it's a little bit personal, so I'm not going to share too much of it, but I'm still working on it, and it's been like a year and a half, but I'm still working on building my self-confidence to exceed my very valid self-doubt that exists, protecting myself, learning how to handle different situations that I may find myself in, or thinking about how I could have gone about it differently and implementing it in a different way, so on and so forth. All right. And I did promise you the dance example, right? So I'll give you that also as an example. So we had the business example of self-doubt and self-confidence. I'm going to give you a dance, which is a non-business thing. So I am a dancer. I've been dancing all of my life. I'm extremely passionate about it. Honestly, dance was the first thing in my life that, honestly, I just have so much of pure love and joy for it, because it taught me so much about life. And frankly, I don't think I would have recognized my passion for marketing and business if it weren't for dance. Like, the way that I saw it was, I love it so much, and I want to feel that way about something in my career as well, and that's how I was open to looking for it. So that's a little bit of a backstory when it comes to dancing, and I've been dancing all my life. But I sort of stopped dancing, just because I was, setting up my business. I was really busy with that. I didn't really I didn't set time for it, I guess I would say. And so there was a gap of about 5 years from when I did hardcore dancing to now, and I really wanted to start like an Instagram page for me, like just dancing, but I was scared. I was really scared. And I was like so much of self-doubt. I was like, okay, you know what? Back when I danced like hardcore, I was 16, 17, 18. Yeah, I'm 31, going on 32 right now. There's a lot of changes, you know, in the way that I am. And I don't know, I was worried about my body flexibility. There was a lot of self-doubt of whether I could pull it off, whether I would have the same expressions, so on and so forth, whether people would think it was good or whether I would feel good about it, on top of that, I did have a hairline fracture about 2 years ago, so I was worried. Yeah, it had healed. It's healed completely, but I was still worried, you know, there's like subconscious layer of worry and self-doubt going through that. Will I be able to do this? Can I pull this off? And so on and so forth. So I pondered about this for about a year, and then I was slowly building my self-confidence in the sense that every other night, like at least once or twice a week, I would do like a 15 to 20 minute dance just in my room and just put some loud music and just go Bollywood dancing. And then I would slowly start gaining my confidence that way. And then a year later, I set up my Instagram page for my dance. And I mean, it's a hobby, but at the same time, it took a lot for me to build that self-confidence, just because I wasn't at all confident about it, but I did take the time to build my self-confidence. I looked through videos of me dancing all through the ages, and I said, you know what? I owe it to that girl in those videos to get back to dancing because she loved it so much. There have been times where I fought to dance, you know, it was just everything. Basically, it was who I was, and I didn't want to let that part of me go. And so all of these put together were raising my self-confidence slowly. And at some point, I even remember telling myself, you know what? I don't care what other people think of it. I want to do it. I feel good about it. I love how I dance and how I move and how I perceive the songs and how I am when I dance, like the feeling, the passion that I feel. So that's enough. That's enough for me. And that itself was a process of accepting that, hey, I do have self-doubts about this, but I'm just going to put myself out there. I'm just going to go forward with what makes me happy. And even the first few dances, if you look at my dance page, it's like Prithvi Madhukar dance. But even if you look at the first few dances, they were like very simple because I wanted to slowly ease my way into it. And then I started getting into the slightly more complicated dances. And I'm still not there yet where I would have been like at 16 years of age, but I'm slowly getting there bit by bit. And I feel like that is what the power of raising your self-confidence does to you. It's not that I don't have any self-doubt at this moment of time. Yes, there are things that terrify me about this dance page and so on and so forth, but I'm not letting it stop me because I constantly work to raise my self-confidence, and that's the trick. That is the absolute trick. So it's okay if you have self-doubt. It's absolutely okay if you have self-doubt. Remove the ones that are baseless. Yes, remove the ones that you are projecting. Remove the ones that are a them problem. Keep the ones that are truly a you problem or a me problem, in my case. As you are working through it or learning how to accept it, both ways work. Figure out ways to raise your self-confidence, to rise above your self-doubt. And there's one little fact that I want to tell you, that self-confidence builds exponentially. It does build beforehand as well, but it builds exponentially once you actually do the task and find success in it. All right, so that's another thing to keep in mind as well. Building self-confidence beforehand, it does happen, but it is slow. It does take time. It does take a lot of patience, and it requires a ton of kindness and self-compassion. But the exponential jump in self-confidence only happens after you take action and after you have accomplished the task. So even if your self-confidence is slightly more than your self-doubt, yeah, that's a signal. It's time for you to take action. It's time for you to take that leap, all right? So yeah, that brings me to the end of this podeo. I really loved this podeo. Like, I really like talking about this. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because this concept has changed my life. I've got to tell you, every single stage of my life, it's not that I didn't have self-doubt, It's just that my self-confidence was more than my self-doubt at that point in time. And a lot of people all through my life, you can ask like every single person at every other stage in my life, well, not every single person, but most of the people who have interacted with me at different phases of my life, they've always asked me, well, where do you get your confidence from? Like, how do you do the things that you do? And it took me like a little time of people asking the same question, and I'm like, yeah, actually, how do I do it? And then I came up with this, and I was like, yeah, actually, this is how I do it. It's not that I'm devoid of self-doubt, it's just that my self-confidence is more at that point in time, and if it's not more, I work to bring it up. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching all the way up until here. If you like this audio or it helped you in some way, please do give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because that tells you every single time I do upload a audio, and I upload a couple of these every single week. Other than that, if you want to catch my 2 books, 0 to 4 Figures is my first book. That is a compilation of 61 stories and lessons aimed towards self-love, relationships, positive mindset, growth mindset, success mindset, business strategy, and marketing strategy. That is available on Amazon. My second book is Self-Loved. It is a compilation of 1,000 journal prompts aimed towards healing, growth, and self-discovery. That too is available on Amazon. It covers topics like gratitude, reflections, inner child healing, trauma healing, so on and so forth. Other than that, if you want to catch my productivity planners, journals, and trackers, it's called The Simple Series by The Marketing Nomad. That too is available on Amazon. It's got 18 at the moment of publishing this podeo, and there are various ones like a 5-day work week planner, a 7-day week planner, then there's a 1-page project planner, a habit tracker, a challenge tracker, so on and so forth. Now, the simplest way to find all of my stuff on Amazon, whether it is my books, my journals, my planners, my trackers, etc., is to search my full name on Amazon. It's Prithvi Madhukar, Prithvi space Madhukar. The minute you search that, you're gonna get an author page for me, and then all of it is just going to show up. All right, thank you so much for listening all the way up until here. I hope you had as much fun as I did recording this. Alrighty guys, bye bye.